Colburn Bible. When the earth was young, and the race of men still as children, there were fertile green pastures in the lands, where all is now sand and barren wasteland. In the midst of it was a garden land, which lay against the edge of the earth, eastward towards the sun rising, and it was called Meruah, meaning the place of the garden on the plain. It lay at the foot of a mountain, which was cleft at its rising, and out of it flowed the river of Tardana, which watered the plain. From the mountain on the other side ran the river Kau, which watered the plain through the land of Chaldan. The river Nara flowed westward, and then turned back to flow around the garden land. It was a fertile place, for out of the ground grew every kind of tree that was good for food, and every tree that was pleasant to the sight. Every herb that could be eaten, and every herb that flowered was there. The tree of life, which was called Glacier, having leaves of gold and copper, was within the sacred enclosure. There too was the great tree of wisdom, bearing the fruits of knowledge, granting the choice and ability to know the true from the false. It is the same tree which can be read as men read a book. There also was the tree of trespass, between which grew the lotus of rapture, and in the center was the place of power, where God made his presence known. A cloud mist seemed to gather about the glorious being, enfolding him, so he was no longer visible. Then the mist gradually cleared, and the man saw another form emerging. It was that of a woman, but one such as Fanfar had never seen before, beautiful beyond his conception of beauty, with such perfection of form and grace that he was dumbfounded. Yet the vision was not substantial. She was a wraith, an ethereal being. The man awoke and sought food from the fruits about him, and having refreshed himself, wandered about the garden. Wherever he went, he saw the wraith, but was unafraid because she smiled encouragingly, bringing comfort to his heart. He built himself a shelter and grew strong again, but always, wherever he went, the wraith was not far distant. One day, near the edge of the garden, he fell asleep in the heat of the day and awoke to find himself surrounded by the sons of Bothas, not true men, but yoslings, kinfolks to the beasts of the forest. Before they could take his strength and wisdom, he loosed himself among them, slaying some in rage and might before the rest ran away. When it was done, he set himself down beneath a great tree, for he was wounded and blood gushed out from his side and gathered thickly beside him. He became faint, falling into a deep sleep, and while he slept, a wondrous thing happened. The wraith came and lay beside him, taking blood from his wound upon herself, so it congealed about her. Thus the spirit being became clothed with flesh, born of congealing blood, and being sundered from his side, she rose, a mortal woman. In his heart, Fanfara was not at rest because of her likeness, but she was gentle, ministering to him with solitude, and being skillful in the ways of healing, she made him whole. Therefore, he had grown strong again. He made her queen of the garden land, and she was so called even by our fathers, who named her Gola, but Fanfar called her Amma, meaning helpmate. In our tongue she is called the Lady of Fanfid. It is written that God once walked the earth with man and dwelt within a cave above a garden where man labored. God encompasses all that is and cannot be contained in a cave. Look to the sacred writings for truth. It is told that woman made God angry, and he took himself into the sky, removing heaven from man because of his disgust for woman. It is also told that man offended God by imitating him. These are tales made by man. Genesis chapter 3, 6 through 16. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Most High walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High amongst the trees of the garden. And the Most High called unto Adam, and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, That the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Most High said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Most High said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. It should be evident that the same creation story has migrated with different tribes as they relocated over time. Though there are minor variations, we see the same overarching themes run through each of them. These being a serpent being present, which we would probably call today a seraph or reptilian. We also see the seraph interfering with the progression of humanity, not allowing them to progress on their own. This thereby gives the Garden of Eden story the sense that it was somewhat of an experiment. We see Adam and Eve being created and grown in a lab, according to the Dinka. And according to the Egyptians, the Creator lived in a mountain that overlooked the garden. And in all instances, the Creator once interacted with humanity in person until they disobeyed. We also see a controlled variable, which is the tree of life, and an uncontrolled variable, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Controlled and uncontrolled variables are needed in all experiments. The key to understanding the Israelites' exodus out of Egypt is by learning about the country they served, ancient Egypt. It's important to note that the Egyptians' directional system was the opposite of our modern-day directional system. For the Egyptians and those that lived during that time period, up meant south and down meant north. So when the Most High said he would bring the Israelites up out of Egypt, this indicates the direction they went. Lower Egypt was the northern part of ancient Egypt, and Upper Egypt was the southern part. Knowing this, the Israelites would have had to have traveled south into Sudan and Ethiopia. And knowing that the Israelites traveled south, we can with certainty determine where the Holy Land is located. According to Genesis chapter 15, verse 18, the Promised Land is located from the river of Egypt, which we know is the Nile or Gihon River, unto the Euphrates River. This territory would include Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, and parts of Kenya, Eritrea, Uganda, Sudan, and South Sudan, thereby proving Joel chapter 3, verse 2, where it depicts that the Holy Land was parted. So how do we know for sure that this is the Holy Land? Aside from the genetically proven Falasha Israelites already living in the region and the Jamaican Rastafarians who claim to be Israelites repatriating after slavery, there are a few more clues that point to this location. One being that Jerusalem is said to be located along the Gihon River in 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verse 30. Another item worth mentioning is the Great Rift Valley in East Africa. Africa is in the process of splitting in two. This event lines up perfectly with Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4.
Come on, Pop, what is it?
Wait a minute. Look at it. Have you eyes but see not? Which would come in handy if you're looking at that stuff. See, this is our family crest, son, right here. And look at that crown. I am a king. There it is right there. I've been right all along. See, that's the crown, and right there, that's Ethiopia. That's where my family came from. And right here, see, it has black and white hand intermingled. Whatever that means. And then here's a shield showing that we were great warriors.
With a Jewish star on it.
Yeah. I wonder what that means.
That means, Fred Sanford, if I know my Bible, and I know my Bible, you are a descendant of a king of the Jews. And if you're a king, you're also Jewish.
Jewish?
Gee, that's funny. You don't look it.
I'm Jewish. You hear that, Elizabeth? Elizabeth, honey, I'm Jewish. This is it. This is the big one. I'm coming to join you, honey. I'll be the one with the chicken soup and the matzo ball.